everybody. It's August 2nd, 2019. This is Center Baby, and you're here with Stand Radio. Just going to jump right in here, and let's just go ahead and hit on some of the bizarre news and things that have been going on when we're not paying attention, or when some of us aren't paying attention. Looks like, let's see, where do I want to start? Okay, so turns out that there is a man in Arizona who learned that his mom, her body, after she passed away from Alzheimer's, and this has been a minute ago. It's been 5 years since the guy's mom passed away in hospice care, okay? 73-year-old Doris Stauffer. And she suffered from Alzheimer's disease the last years of her life. But the doctors say that she didn't even have the gene for that. Okay, so the doctors were worried that the disease may have mutated somehow. They wanted to study her brain after she passed so they could learn more, okay? And when the time came, though, her neurologist couldn't accept the body, and her son tried, I guess, other facilities, but wasn't able to find another facility that would take her. The Stauffers are one of a dozen families that haven't got a clue what happened to their loved ones after they donated them to Biological Resource Center in Maricopa County, Arizona. Okay? Now, Jim Stauffer, the son, had trusted Biological Resource Center to get her brain to the neurologist. He now knows what really happened, and you're just not going to believe this because I couldn't believe what I was reading. Apparently, his mother's body, and this is after an investigation by Reuters, and they figured this out. His mother's body was sold to the military, and apparently had been detonated in a experiment blast testing, where apparently the body gets strapped to a chair before an explosive device gets detonated underneath. And apparently the testing was to get an idea of what the human body goes through when a vehicle is hit by an IED. Can you believe that? I mean, seriously? Now we're blowing up old ladies? And then her son only got 6 ounces of her ashes returned to him. I mean, you have got to be kidding me. I couldn't believe it. I saw the headline. It said her body was detonated in an experiment. I mean, really though? Seriously. Okay. Wow, moving on. What else we got here? We got Supreme Court orders eviction of 1.1 million forest families. I believe this was over in India. I'm not sure. I'm a little confused as to whether this would be the Supreme Court there or the Supreme Court here. I didn't think India. I didn't know that they had one, but anyway, 1.1 million forest families. Now, the law provides for giving land rights to those living on forest land for at least 3 generations before the end of December in 2005. But the Supreme Court's asked the governments of 17 states to evict an estimated 1 million tribal and other households living in the forest after their claims of the right to live in forests were rejected under what's called the Forest Rights Act. Okay, so apparently by July 12th, that's when the court has asked the evictions to be carried out by, and it just ridiculous. I honestly cannot believe it. That they would do that. And according to affidavits filed by the states in the top court, about 1,172,900. Okay, so 1.17 million people land ownership claims made by tribes and other traditional forest dwellers have been rejected for several reasons. So there's just evicting these people, right? 1 million people. Oh well, screw it. Now you just don't have a home. Deal with it. I mean, really? I can't even imagine. And here was something that it blew my mind. This is the FBI, the new FBI news. Apparently, an exclusive FBI document or bulletin warns conspiracy theories are a new domestic terrorism threat. How's that for you? Conspiracy theories, the new domestic terrorism threat. So, FBI intelligence bulletin from the Phoenix field office dated May 30th, 2019, describes conspiracy theory-driven domestic extremists as a growing threat, and notes that the first such report to do so, that they're saying this is the first report for them putting that in writing, which I mean, come on, I call bullshit, but whatever. It also listed a number of arrests, including some that they haven't publicized, and apparently they were related to violent incidents motivated by fringe beliefs. Fringe beliefs. Documents specifically mentioned QAnon, and it quotes it as saying a shadowy network that believes in a deep state conspiracy against President Trump, and Pizzagate, which, is the theory, they say, that a pedophile ring including Clinton associates was being run out of the basement of a Washington, D.C. pizza restaurant, which actually didn't have a basement at all, but this is how they worded that. Now, the FBI assesses that these conspiracy theories very likely are going to emerge, spread, and evolve in the modern information marketplace, occasionally driving both groups and individual extremists to carry out criminal or violent acts. It also states that the FBI believes more conspiracy-driven extremists are likely to increase during the 2020 presidential election. Now, gee, why would they be worried about that, guys? I mean, why? They sure weren't worried about Antifa. They sure weren't worried about Democrats. They sure weren't worried about people beating photographers in the street and spitting on people and hitting people with cars and stuff like that. But, I think that we all know what this has to do with, and so I'll continue reading this. And it says, let's see. It also states that FBI said another factor driving the intensity of the threat is the uncovering of real conspiracies or cover-ups by or illegal, harmful, or unconstitutional activities by government officials or leading political figures. Although they didn't specify which political figures they were talking about or which cover-ups, they just didn't go there. They did mention President Trump by name briefly in the latest FBI document, which notes that the origin of QAnon is the conspiratorial belief that Q is allegedly a government official and posts classified info online to reveal a covert effort led by President Trump to dismantle the deep state. Now, I'm not going to say one way or the other, but what I will say is that, QAnon, they have been trying to do this and have been there from what I am aware of since the Reagan administration, trying to do this. So you've got some old school guys in there, just because Trump was on the same page doesn't mean that he orchestrated the shit, It's just cleaning house, man. It's just getting these losers out of there that are crooked. They're just criminals, that's all it is. So, it's just a bunch of global elites, basically, that have been engaging in an international child sex trafficking ring, and they're all getting busted, and they don't want to, and they got a lot of money to spend to raise a lot of hell, so they're going to raise as much hell as they can. Now, best way to do that is to, stop people like me and other people that are doing what I'm doing from running their mouths and trying to enlighten the general public, because it's actually starting to work. There's actually enough people saying things now that people are, a lot of people are starting to open their eyes, and then all this stuff's coming out. The indictments that it came out, they're unsealing them and busting them left and right. But okay, so anyway, so back to that article. It says the recent intelligence bulletin comes as the FBI is facing pressure, apparently, to explain who exactly it is that they consider to be an extremist and how the government prosecutes domestic terrorists. In recent weeks, the FBI director has addressed domestic terrorism multiple times, but didn't publicly mention this new conspiracy theory threat. Well, of course not, because, you can't really say it's conspiracy theory. All we're doing is telling the truth. People have taken the time to get the information and they're passing it on. That's not a crime. That's protected under the First Amendment. Okay? It might piss them off and they might not like it, but if they were, being stand-up people, they wouldn't have to worry about what we're saying. That's all there is to that too. And so the FBI is already under fire for its approach to domestic extremism. And it said that in a contentious hearing last week before the Senate Judiciary Committee, FBI Director Christopher Wray faced criticism from Democrats, of course, who said the Bureau was not focusing enough on white supremacist violence. The term white supremacist, white nationalist is not talked about or included, in your statement to the committee when you talk about threats to America, Senator Richard Durbin, Democrat of Illinois, said. There's a reference to racism, which I think probably was meant to include that, but nothing more specific. So anyway, the FBI director, Christopher Wray, tells him, look, we've basically done away with the separate categories now, and we're not just going to have a category for black identity extremists and white supremacists. We're going to put them all together and just call it, racially motivated violence. Okay? And he did mention, though, he said, I will say some of the domestic terrorism cases that we've investigated are motivated by some version of what you may call white supremacist violence. Okay, well, what about the people that are out there, screaming, Allahu Akbar, blah, 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 and running people over, running and killing people, killing good Americans with cars and stuff? What about the people that are, the MS-13 gang members that are cutting people's hearts out and throwing them off of cliffs? What do you call that? I couldn't believe it. They said something else here in a minute. I'll get to it. And it just blew my mind at the audacity. But anyway, so he tells him that, and he says FBI faced mounting criticism. Here it is. For the term black identity extremist after its use was revealed by Foreign Policy Margin in 2017. Critics pointed out it was a term the FBI made up based solely on race, since no group or any specific individuals actually identify as black identity extremists. Wow, you mean to tell me it's based solely on race? Kind of like, white supremacists or white nationalists? You see what I'm saying? It's just so asinine to me. These people are just so stupid. So anyway, in May, I guess, Michael McGarity, he's the FBI's assistant director of the counterterrorism division. He told Congress that the Bureau now classifies domestic terrorism threats into 4 main categories. Okay, so you've got your racially motivated violent extremism. You've got your anti-government and anti-authority extremism. You've got your animal rights / environmental extremism. And you've got your abortion extremism, which is going to be both pro-choice and pro-life. But, apparently, the new focus on conspiracy theorists appears to fall under the broader category of anti-government extremism. So, anyways, that's the first FBI product that examines the threat from conspiracy theory-driven extremism as an extremists, and provides a baseline for future intelligence products, the document states. Come on. Boo. So I'm not anti-government and I'm not anti-authority at all. What I am is anti let's have crooks run the country, and anti what's good for us is not good for them. They have different set of laws. They're all above the law. This is just a bunch of people stomping their feet and whining, and it's like no different than a little kid who doesn't want to go to bed or who doesn't want to take a bath, and so they just whine and stomp their feet until, and that's all they're doing. That's why, when they're doing all this craziness and they're, saying their stupid stuff on TV, we really need to be paying attention to other avenues. We shouldn't give the Democratic people that party that kind of attention anymore. I know we need to keep an eye on them, but wow. Let's keep our eye on the prize, because they are getting ready and they're trying to push these gun grabs now. Okay? And we can't have that. I bet the people over there in Beijing right now or in Hong Kong really wish that they had, that kind of stuff to protect themselves.